Hello children, and welcome back to this virtual class of English literature. In the previous lecture, we started studying Scene 2 of Act 1 of The Tempest. In the beginning of Scene 2, we see Prospero on an island, and he is the reason behind the tempest in which the ship was wrecked. He tells his daughter the story of his arrival to this remote island, how he happened to come to this island, who he actually is. He tells Miranda that he is not actually a poor man who lives on this island. He actually belongs to Milan. He was the Duke of Milan some 12 years ago when he was banished by his younger brother because he was busy, because Prospero was always busy in studying philosophy, magic and various arts. Taking advantage of his absorption in his studies, Antonio, his younger brother, who was appointed the manager of the estate, he banished Prospero. So he took advantage of Prospero's trust, Prospero's faith and Prospero's confidence in him, and with the help of somebody we will read today, with the help of one person, he banished Prospero from Milan. Miranda is all ear. While narrating his story to Miranda, Prospero keeps asking her whether she is attentive or not, like he does it today. After telling her about his story and how he was duped, he tells her, "Dost thou hear?" Miranda says, "Your tale, sir, would cure deafness." That his tale, his story is so interesting that even a deaf person will, restore his hearing skills, hearing powers. So your tale, sir, would cure deafness. Even the deafness will be cured if a deaf person hears his story. Means she is all ear, she is attentive. Prospero, to have no screen between this part he played and him he played it for. He needs will be absolute Milan. So to have no screen between this part he played. Whatever he here is Antonio. Antonio wanted to acquire the dukedom of Milan. Milan, the duke of which was Prospero. He was the manager of Milan. So he wanted, first of all, he made all the courtiers, loyal courtiers of Prospero to take his side, to be on his side. Then he wanted to acquire the entire dukedom and have no screen between this part he played and him he played it for. Whosoever was with him, he took their help, he made them work for him. He needs will be absolute Milan. What all he wanted was the dukedom of Milan. Me, poor man, my library was dukedom large enough of temporal royalties. While Prospero, his dukedom, although he was the Duke of Milan, but he was more interested in his studies. He spent most of his time in library. His library was his dukedom, and it was a larger dukedom for Prospero than the dukedom, the kingdom of entire Milan. The temporal royalties he thinks me now incapable. Antonio thought that he is good for studies only, that Prospero is good for studies only, that he is better stay in the library, and all he needed was the dukedom of Milan. Of temporal royalties, he wanted the worldly powers, the authority. He thinks me now incapable. Confederates, so he thought that Prospero was incapable of looking after his dukedom, that he was better for library only. Confederates, so dry he was for sway. He had some confederates, he had some people whom he confided in, he had confidence in, so he joined hands with them. So dry he was for sway. Dry means thirsty. Thirsty means thirst, hunger for power, for authority, with the king of Naples. And who was his confederate? The best the biggest confederate was the king of Naples. King of Naples, Alonso. Alonso, who is there on the ship, who was there on the ship in Act 1, Scene 1, we saw Alonso, Antonio, they all were on the ship, which was wrecked because of Tempest. So he shook hands, he joined hands with the king of Naples, and in return, he offered to give him annual tribute, do him homage. In return, he offered him some money, some annual money, some annual gifts that he would give him annually, and in return, all he needed was the dukedom of Milan, followed by the banishment of Prospero from Milan. To him, annual tribute, do him homage, subject his coronet to his crown, and bend the dukedom yet unbored. Subject his coronet to his crown, and wanted to be coronated. He wanted to be the Duke of Milan. And the glorious empire, the glorious dukedom of Milan, which had never bowed before anyone, it was bent before Naples. Alas, poor Milan. All he has for Milan is sympathy only. That Milan, which had a glorious past, had to bow before the king of Naples, and that too only to acquire the dukedom of Milan by a brother. To most ignoble stooping. It is stooping, the stooping before anyone is never noble at all. It was ignoble, so it is shameful act to stoop before anyone, to bow before anyone, and that too for a glorious empire like a dukedom like Milan. Miranda, she is surprised. Oh the heavens, means she can't believe that such a glorious empire, dukedom had to bow before someone only because of a younger brother's thirst, hunger for power, for authority. Mark his condition and the event, then tell me if this might be a brother. Prospero asked his daughter, mark his condition and the event. Just see how he behaved with me and what happened afterwards. Listen to that and then tell me whether he can be called a brother or not. Then tell me if this might be a brother. Can this man be called a brother who, in his thirst for authority, in his thirst, hunger for power, banished his own brother? And because of his ambition, a glorious dukedom like Milan had to stoop before the others. Can this man be called a brother? Miranda says, I should sin to think, although it's not, glorious thing to think that, but nobody of my grandmother, good wombs have borne bad sons. So says that if I am saying such thing about my own grandmother, my father's mother, I am saying such bad thing about my own grandmother, and she thinks that she is committing a sin now. But she says, she feels forced, she feels convinced to say that good wombs have borne bad sons. Prosper is a good man. He is the son of the same mother whose other son is Antonio. Miranda's grandmother has given birth to Prospero, a good man, but at the same time she has given birth to a bad person, bad man like Antonio, who is a villain in fact, who does not deserve to be called a younger brother. Good wombs have borne bad sons. So, although they had the teachings from the same mother, even then they turned out to be different people, different personalities. And Prospero, a gentleman, although he is fighting for his rights now, but Antonio can never be called a gentleman. In his hunger, in his ambition to acquire the dukedom, he banished his own brother with the help of an outsider. He cannot be called a gentleman at all. So we have examples of such kind of people, two siblings of the same parents, and they turned out to be different persons. We can take the example of Devaki and Kans. Kans and Devaki. Devaki, the mother of Lord Krishna, and Kans we all know about. So these are two people, those who were born to the same parents, and they turned out to be two different and opposite people, two people with the personalities ideologies falls apart. Similarly, Antonio and Prospero, they are the children of same parents, but same mother has given birth to Antonio as well, who is a bad person. Good wombs have born bad sons. Good wombs because she also gave birth to Prospero. Bad sons, Antonio. Prospero, now the condition, the king of Naples being an enemy to me, inveterate. So now the condition, look at this. Conditions applied, everywhere. It doesn't happen everywhere. Look at the things happened afterwards. The king of Naples being an enemy to me, inveterate. So king of Naples, Alonso, became his enemy. He wanted to get him away, get him out of Milan. Hearkens my brother's suit, and the king of Naples, he hearkens my brother's suit. He listens to the orders of Antonio. He pays the heed, he obeys the orders of Antonio. Whatever Antonio says, he does. Because he is getting some rewards for his doings. Which was that he, in lieu of the premises of homage and I know not how much tribute, he was getting some money. How much, I don't know. He must be getting this amount or that amount, whatsoever, but thing is that he was getting something in return. Should presently extirpate me and mine out of the dukedom and confer fair Milan with all the honors on my brother. What did he decide? What did Alonso decide? He decided to extirpate me, Prospero, and mine, whoever was, this is Miranda, my daughter. He decided to extirpate Prospero and Miranda out of the dukedom and confer fair Milan with all the honors on my brother, and Alonso decided Prospero along with his daughter to be expelled from Milan and the power and authority to be conferred on Antonio to be made Duke of Milan. Whereon a treacherous army levied one midnight, fated to the purpose did Antonio open the gates of Milan. So he formed an army. He formed army of people, a group of people to banish Prospero from Milan. A treacherous army levied one midnight, fated to the purpose did Antonio open the gates of Milan, and in the dead of darkness, when around midnight, when there was complete darkness, the ministers for the purpose hurried thence me and thy crying cell. The ministers, the officers, the people who were appointed to banish Prospero, at the mid of the night, they opened the gate of Milan and took Prospero and little Miranda, who was not even 3 years of age then. She was crying bitterly because she was disturbed in her sleep at the midnight. So they had to leave Milan at midnight so that nobody could see them leave the Milan. Miranda says, "Alack, for pity, I'm not remembering how I cried out then. We'll cry it over again. I'm not remembering how I cried out then." Miranda says that she was too young to remember how she cried that time, but she says she doesn't remember how she cried, but she can cry over this incident even now. Only hearing. She was facing everything then, but she doesn't remember how she cried. But hearing all the incidents now from Prospero, she can cry once again. This incident is so heart-rending that a person who had been ruling a particular dukedom, a particular place, he was being expelled from there at the mid of the night along with his 3 years daughter. And one thing was taken care of, that nobody should get to know of his expulsion from Milan. It is a hint that rings mine eyes to it is a hint that rings mine eyes to it. Says that only hearing this, my eyes are about to shed tears. Prospero says, "Here a little further, and then I'll bring thee to the present business." Here a little further, there is much more to be told. Just listen to that, and then I'll tell you why he did why he made the shipwreck, why he designed a tempest to sink that ship. So he is trying to justify himself by giving the, hint and images from the past to his daughter. Here a little further, and then I'll bring thee to the present business which gnaws upon us, that he has done recently, without the which this story were most impertinent, and without listening to the story further, you will not be able to understand the entire story. You have to listen to the story till the end, because the things that he is about to say are very important, and then she will realize why he caused the tempest to sink the ship in the opening scene. Miranda says, "Wherefore did they not that are destroy us?" And then a question arises in Miranda's mind. If Antonio wanted to possess the dukedom, why didn't he kill them both? He should have killed them both. He should have killed Prospero. He should have killed Miranda at the same time. Why didn't he do so? This is the question that arises in Miranda's mind. But Prospero says, "Well demanded venge." Well demanded venge. Well demanded. It's a good question. Question which should have, asked by any person who heard this story. Any person who heard this story would have asked this question. And calls a venge. Venge is not, a very respectable word for a woman, but still it is used here. So it means the girl. Girl, my tale provokes that question. The tale, the story that I am telling, that provokes this question. This question has to be asked. Dear, they durst not, they dared not, they could not kill us. There were reasons for they couldn't kill us. So dear the love my people bore me, nor set a mark so bloody on the business. So there were people in the court, those who still loved Prospero. They loved him so much that Antonio could not shed even a single drop of blood. He couldn't kill him, he couldn't even, give him some punishment. He could only banish them. Nor set a mark so bloody on the business, but with colors fairer painted their fowls end. What he did, he painted fairer colors on their foul ends. His ambition was foul, his ambition was wrong, but he banished Prospero in such a way that it was not it did not arise questions in the mind of the people of Milan. So it was beautifully painted, although it was a foul plan of Antonio, yet he presented it in such a way that it appeared beautiful. It appeared that Milan was blessed to have got, to get rid of Prospero. In few, they hurried us aboard a bark, bore some leagues to sea, where they prepared a rotten carcass of a butt. In few, they hurried us aboard a bark. In few means come to the point. I will just conclude the story briefly. They hurried us aboard a bark. They quickly brought us to a boat, a bark, bore some leagues to sea. They, gave us some things, which would be helpful for them in the sea, where they prepared a rotten carcass of a butt, not rigged, nor tackle, sail, nor mast. So the boat given to them was not in proper condition. It was carcass of a butt. Carcass of a butt. It was, a broken boat which could sink any moment, not rigged, nor tackle, sail, nor mast. It had no equipments, with the help of which they could sail through the sea. It didn't have proper equipments. There was no riggeds, no tackle with the help, which they could sail the ship, nor mast. The very rats instinctively have quitted. And the boat was in such a condition that even the rats had left it. When a ship sinks, first thing that comes out of the ship is, first thing that sinks with the ship is the rats, because they live at the bottom, and bottom is the place which sinks in the sea first of all. So the rats leave the ship first of all when it sinks. So even the rats, they had left the ship because they knew that it was about to sink any moment. Such kind of ship, such kind of boat was given to Prospero while he was banished from Milan. There they hoist us to cry to the sea that roared to us. They hoist us, they let us sail to the sea that roared to us. The sea was roaring, there were high waves in the sea, and we were left on the sea in such a dilapidated boat to sigh to the winds whose pity, sighing back again, did us but loving wrong. And the winds were sighing, the winds were blowing, and it appeared that they were sighing with Prospero, and the waves, they were roaring. There was a lot of turmoil in Prospero's heart, and it could be matched with the roaring sounds of the sea. There were many sounds, but sound of the winds that was sighing back again did us but loving wrong. Although these noises matched that of Prospero, but still they were doing wrong. They were very dangerous. Miranda says, "Alack, what trouble was I then to you? What trouble was I then to you?" If Prospero had been alone, things would have been quite comfortable for him, according to Miranda, because he had to carry his daughter of 3 years along with himself. He had to save himself, and before himself, he had to save his daughter, 3 years daughter, who could not do anything on her own. So according to Miranda, she had been a trouble for her father that time. But Prospero says, "Oh, a cherubim, thou wast that did preserve me." Prospero says that she was not a burden, she was not a trouble, she was a cherubim, she was an angel for him. Angel means she was a source of inspiration for Prospero. According to Prospero, it was Miranda only because of whom he survived. He got power, he got inspiration to stay alive. "Thou wast that did preserve me," and with Miranda, he kept himself alive. He was able to save himself as well. "Thou didst smile," and it was Miranda's smile which made him smile. Miranda's smile was the greatest comfort for Prospero that time. "Infused with a fortitude from heaven, when I had decked the sea with drops full salt." Says that infused with a fortitude from heaven. Miranda's smile was a heavenly bless for Prospero, and whenever he cried, whenever he sprinkled, he decked the sea with drops full salt. Drops full salt are the teardrops. Teardrops, they are saline, they are salty. So whenever he sprinkled his tears in the sea, in the salt water, sea is also saline, and the sea water is also saline. So when he saw Miranda's smile, it appeared that it was a heavenly bless for Prospero. It was a great comfort because Miranda was with him, and it was the most comfortable thing for Prospero that time. "Under my burden groaned," and whenever he held Miranda in his lap and she groaned, it was a bless. It was the most blessed thing for Prospero. "Which raised in me an undergoing stomach." Undergoing stomach? Urge, desire to endure the adversities of life. It was the worst phase of his life because he was banished, he had to leave his motherland, he had to, survive in the roaring sea, and all he had was a dilapidated boat. He had to, he had to survive, and he had to, save the life of his daughter, who was just 3 years old. So because of Miranda only, he had desired, he had, power to endure these adversities, to bear off against what should ensue. So he had the, power because of Miranda, that he could bear up everything. Miranda says, "How came we ashore?" So if they were left in the sea in a dilapidated boat, so how came they happened to, reach this island? How did they reach this island? Prospero says, "By providence divine." By providence divine. He had some future plans, future plans, but he could not make them on his own. He could not make them alone. "Some food we had, and some fresh water that a noble Neapolitan Gonzalo, out of his charity, who being then appointed master of this design." Prospero was fortunate that the manager of the conspiracy of banishment of Prospero from Milan, the manager of this conspiracy was Gonzalo. an honest man. He is a courtier in the court of Naples, and he is a very honest man, and he had some soft corner for Prospero in his heart. So when he saw, he was the manager, he was all in all. So when he saw that Prospero, a true soul, a pure soul, had to leave his motherland, that too at the mid of the night, so he provided him with some food, some fresh water, with the help of which he could survive. And he was a master of this design that gave us with rich garments, linens, stuffs and accessories. He provided everything, clothes, stuff and accessories, whatever the things were required for a person to survive for several years. He provided them that, which since have studied much, and with the help of that, they had been very, with the help of that, he survived for such a long time. They were very helpful for him. So, of his gentleness, knowing I loved my books, he furnished me from mine own library with volumes that I prize above my dukedom. So, not only food and clothes and water, he also provided him with his books. Prospero, held his books more than his dukedom. He loved his book, he loved his library, he loved his books more than the entire dukedom of Milan. So, he gave him some books as well. Miranda says, would I might but ever see that man? So, Miranda is, grateful to Gonzalo. She says that if she will ever be able to see that man, she wants to see such a nice person, Gonzalo. Can she ever see him? Prospero says, now I arise, resumes his mantle. Now I rise, now I'll tell you. He resumes his mantle, the mantle he removed before starting his tale to Miranda. He says, sit still and hear the last of our sea sorrow. Sit still, and I'll tell you how we endured that long sea journey, that long voyage in that dilapidated boat. I'll tell you the last of our sea sorrow, the sorrows, the troubles, the problems, the dangers we had to face at that time in the sea, in that dilapidated boat. Here in this island we arrived. Somehow they arrived this island, and here have I, the schoolmaster, made thee more profit than other princesses can that have more time for vainer hours and tutors not so careful. So here on this island they arrived, and here have I, the schoolmaster. So this was a completely uninhabited island. It was an isolated island. Here lived no human being at all. So Prospero himself was Miranda's tutor. He taught her everything that should be taught to a princess, and he taught her more. He himself is a scholar, he's a great scholar. He himself is a lover of learnings, learning philosophy, learning magics, learning four arts, learning every kind of art, He taught everything that should be taught to a princess, and more than that, because made thee more profit than other princesses can that have more time for vainer arts. Vainer arts, they spend a lot of time in vain things, useless things. The princesses, those who are connected with the world outside, they spend more time on themselves, they spend more time on the things which are not useful at all. But Miranda had no such issues. All she had to do was studies, whatever her father taught. And tutors not so careful, and the princesses, the other princesses, they are tutored by the outside people, those who are not very careful, They teach them only because they are being paid for that. They do not teach them because they have any attachment with those princesses or the princes or the royal people. They only teach because they are paid off, because they are paid back. So, but Prospero didn't have any such issues. All he had to do was give everything he knew to his daughter, to inculcate every single thing that he knew in his daughter. Miranda says, heavens thank you for it. Heavens thank you for it means she is highly grateful to Prospero for having taught her everything, and that too in a religious manner. And now I pray you, sir, for still it is beating in my mind your reason for raising the sea storm. And now I pray you, sir, for still it is beating in my mind. This is still not clear to Miranda. Why did he raise the storm? Why did he cause the tempest and made the tempest, wreck the ship, sink the ship? Prosper says, no, thus for far forth. By accident, most strange, bountiful fortune. No, thus far forth. Now, he wants to tell her everything, but he has told her all the incidents that happened in the past, and because of them, why he has done so. We as the readers, we as the spectators, we as the audience know that the ship has Alonso, the king of Naples, Antonio, Prospero's younger brother, and Gonzalo, the honest person, and many other people on the board. But Miranda doesn't know. She doesn't know who all were present on the ship. All she knows is that the ship was wrecked, that the ship sank because of the sea storm, because of the tempest. She wants, and this tempest was caused by Prospero. She wants to know why did he cause the tempest. Now, by accident, most strange. It's in a very strange thing, bountiful fortune, and it's a fortunate thing, Luckily, fortunately, what happened? Now, my dear lady, hath mine enemies brought to this shore. That ship had his enemies, two enemies, Antonio and Alonso. They were on the ship, on the board in the ship, and that's why the ship was wrecked. He caused tempest to sink the ship, and those enemies, they have been brought to this island. They haven't died. He told Miranda that in the very beginning of the scene that not even a single soul was harmed on the ship. He only wanted them to come to this island. He sank the ship and did not let those people die. He only wanted them to come to this island. So brought them to this shore, and by my pre-science is the fourth science, the science he knows the art of magic. Magic which existed even before the science existed. Pre-science, I find my zenith doth depend upon a most auspicious star. So he says that I am very fortunate today. With the help of this magic I have done this, and today is the most fortunate day of my life. This is the most auspicious day of my life. Whose influence, if not, he depends upon the auspicious stars, means he believes in astrology. Astrology where, some calculations are made with the help of the, locations of the stars and the planets, and the person concerned is told about, the things to happen in his life. It is a matter of debate whether this science is true or not, but that is astrology, and he believes in that. He says because of the auspicious star, today is the fortunate day, the most fortunate day of my life, whose influence is now I court not but omit, my fortunes will ever after droop. And whose influence, if now I court not but omit, if he does not, take advantage of this moment, take advantage of these favorable times, these favorable situations, circumstances, and he leaves them now. This is the perfect time, this is the best time that he can pay them back. He can take revenge from these people. And if he does not do that, my fortunes will ever after droop. He will not get any other opportunity to do the same thing that he is doing today. Here, sees more questions. So do not ask any more questions now, because he has given answers to all the possible questions. Sees more questions, thou art inclined to sleep. He can see that Miranda is feeling sleepy. Not feeling sleepy, he makes her fall asleep. He, with the help of his magic, he asks her to sleep. Thou art inclined to speak. It is good dullness, and give it way. It's a good dullness. It's a good dullness. Means sleep and give it away. Please sleep. I know thou canst not choose. Thou canst not choose. You cannot choose now because you are feeling sleepy, and you have no option at all. Sleep or not to sleep, you have no option. You just sleep. Choose. I know thou canst not choose. Miranda sleeps, and Miranda sleeps. Come away, Sovereign, come. I am ready now. Approach my Ariel. Come. Come away, Sovereign, come. Somebody has come, or somebody is already present there, and he calls him his servant and tells him to come. That person's name is Ariel. He tells him to come and tell him and speak to him. Approach, come here, come. So here, somebody has come. We don't know who. His name is Ariel. Who is Ariel? What news has he brought? Whether the news that he has brought is a good one or a bad one. In order to know the answers to all these questions, we will meet once again in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye.